Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon. Today we're going to be learning how to play Star Wars the Deck Building game. This is Fantasy Flight's newest game, period. Obviously utilizing their Star Wars IP that they have. This is a deck builder. It's not a living card game. It's not a collectible card game. We are hoping that there will be expansions in the future. It is a head-to-head deck builder, so it is meant to be played ideally with two players sitting across the table from each other. You can play four-player and play on teams. I haven't read those rules. They're not even included in the book. It seems like it would just kind of be a hot mess, but this is actually a very straightforward deck builder. I would almost say beyond, but if you can set aside the fact that there is a lot of take that, because it is literally back and forth, head to head, taking out each other's bases. If you can get past that, this is a great introductory deck builder. But some people prefer to maybe find a cooperative deck builder or one that's a little less take thatty, like say Dominion or something like that. So, real quick, setup is very straightforward. You have your main deck that you're going to draw cards from, and then you have your kind of market row here. It's called the Galaxy row. You'll notice, however, that the cards are all turned in various directions. I am playing as the Rebellion in this scenario against the Empire. So the one lone Empire card here is turned facing him, so he can read the text appropriately, but you'll notice that there is text at the top or at the bottom of this card that for me is at the top, and it gives me reward, gain 3 resources, and that number there, which is, we'll talk about that here in a minute. But the two cards that are specific to the Rebellion are facing me, and then there's several cards here that are gray, so blue, red, and gray, that are aimed so that they're not facing either one of us, including this pile of Outer Rim pilots. This is just a pile of the exact same card, something that's always there. If you have nothing else to spend your money on at the beginning, it's a good purchase because it can just get you 2 more resources, and then eventually you can exile it easily to gain some force. So that is setup. A few quick things to note is that each side has a starting base, so it's going to be Dantooine or Lothal. Beyond that, they give you a recommended 5 bases to start with in your first game, but there's 10 total bases on each side, and these right here, the variety in the bases and what they do for you is one of the points of the game that really shines. So I've got just the starting 5 over there on each side, and then each side has a starting deck of 10 cards that you're going to shuffle up and draw 5. These are the exact same cards as far as function is concerned and value and all that stuff, but theirs are stormtroopers, mine are rebel troopers, theirs are imperial shuttles, mine are, what are mine? Alliance shuttles. So the artwork and the names are different, but the statistics on them are exactly the same. So you're going to shuffle up your starting deck, 5 cards, good to go. This is the force track. This is a tug of war element that throughout the game you're going to be moving this, hopefully always pulling it to your side. It's going to start the game on the Rebellion's side all the way. The Empire is always going to get the first turn. If you start your turn and this cube is all the way to your end, so for me it would be this end, for my opponent it would be that end. If at the start of your turn it's there, you get an additional resource, which is essentially the currency in the game, at the beginning of your turn. If, however, you play some cards that move it down, you don't get it. It has to be there at the beginning of the turn. But as long as the cube is on this half of this little meter here, the force is with me, the Rebellion. If it's on those 3 spaces, it's with the Empire. And if it's in the middle here, it's neutral, it's with neither. But for purposes of setup, it starts right there. All right. So we already briefly talked about the cards facing one another, and the biggest reason for that is because only the Empire can purchase Empire cards, only the Rebellion can purchase Rebellion cards, and the ones that are neutral can be purchased by either side. So that's why we have kind of turned them so that the way they are. I think this is a really unique mechanic because most of the times if you are playing a 2-player deck builder, you're either sitting side by side with someone, or you got to turn the cards funny, or put them on a lazy Susan or something like that, so that people can see them. But when it's your turn, you're going to flip over your cards, and you're basically going to play them down. There are no rules as of yet as to the order in which you play them makes a difference. In this case, I would play these 4. These are my 4 purchasing ones that would gain me 4 money. You can, if you would like, that's what these cubes are for, set aside 4 cubes. And then I have my Temple Guardian. My Temple Guardian is essentially my wild card. It can be one of any one thing, whether that's attack, purchasing power, or the force. In this case, the force is already here, so I wouldn't use that. I could maybe get 5 here if there was something out here that I really wanted. In this case, I'm probably going to target this card right here, and I'll tell you why here in a minute. So I have exactly what I need. I would probably spend my attack then to put a single point of damage on the opponent's base, which is the name of the game. Defeating the bases is how you win the game. Prior to the start of the game, you're going to set a certain number of bases, and whoever reaches that number of defeated bases is the winner. So in a kind of standard short game, it would be 3 bases. Then you can play 4 or 5. There's really honestly nothing stopping you from playing all 10 if you wanted to. But say you play 3 bases, the first person to knock out 3 of their opponent's bases would be the winner. Now, the only other card here in our starting deck would be a Rebel Trooper if we had had this in our hand like so. The Rebel Trooper does not get me any resources to purchase cards from, but he does give me attack. So again, I could use them to attack the base, or in this instance, if I had the Rebel Trooper and the Temple Guardian, who is a wild card, I could say, well, I've got 3 attack. Again, you can pull out these purple cubes if you'd like, because it helps you just keep yourself organized. Not only can you attack bases, you can attack opposing cards in the galaxy row. Now, you'll notice that neutral cards do not have this reward at the bottom of their card, like this TIE Fighter does. Capital ships also do not, because you cannot attack a capital ship through this action. So this action is called either bounty hunting or sabotaging. And that's really just a thematic word depending on which side you are on. The Empire bounty hunts, I as the Rebellion sabotage. So instead of putting 3 damage on my opponent's base, I can choose to take out this TIE Interceptor. So I would take my 3 damage, I'd place it on the TIE Interceptor, I would dedicate these 2 guys, thematically they tell you to put them in front of it. So these 2 cards are doing battle. I have now defeated the TIE Interceptor. It's going to be removed from the galaxy row. So that means my opponent no longer has the opportunity to purchase this card, and I gain this reward, which in this case would be 3 resources. So if I did all this before I did any purchasing, I'm now able to purchase 7 items, 7 points worth of items. This card then goes over into a discard pile, and a new one comes out. In this case, it's another Empire card. If it wasn't, it would be rotated to which way. So those are the 2 ways you can attack your opponent. You can go at their base directly, or you can attack cards to keep them from gaining them, which again, I think is a really nice mechanic that I personally have never seen in a deck builder, but works really well in this instance. So you have your starting cards, which of course are very basic, and they don't really have any flavor text except for the Temple Guardian here, which just tells you it's a wild card. But as you start gaining more cards, they're going to start having text and effects on the bottom. Say, for example, this Trooper here is your opponent discards 1 card from their hand at random if the Force is with you. And you'll notice that's in parentheses, so you would have to force them to discard a card. But if the Force is on your side of this meter here, they have to do it at random. They don't get to choose. Let's see. The Jawa here. The Jawa here, if you just play him, he's going to give you 2 resources. But if you choose to exile this unit, that means remove it from the game. You're culling your deck of this card. Exile this unit, you can purchase a card from the Galaxy discard pile as if it were in the Galaxy row. So say I really wanted this TIE Interceptor and I was the Empire, and I purchased the Jawa Scavenger. He came back up and I had what I needed. I could gain his 2 resources and then exile him, remove him from the game to purchase this TIE Interceptor just like I normally would. There's plenty of, actions that the cards, the better cards, the ones that you're going to buy out of the Galaxy row can take. And obviously they get better. The statistics gets better as the cost progresses. So a 8 cost card is going to be a lot better than a 3 cost card and so forth. In my playthroughs so far, I have not come up with anything, and I read through the basic rules, but I did not read the glossary and the index and all that extra stuff, and there has yet to be something that has stumped me. The only rule that I had to look into was concerning capital ships, and I'll tell you about that when we get to that. So this is a basic deck builder. You're going to purchase cards. They're going to go into your discard pile. You're going to play your cards down. Once you've done playing them, they will go into your discard pile. Any resources that you do not use, whether it's in-game currency or attack that you do not spend, just goes back. You don't carry it over or anything like that. And at the end of your turn, you'll draw 5 more cards. If you need to, you'll shuffle your deck like so. So let's talk about bases here. First of all, probably my number 1 tip for new players would be to get yourself some capital ships. These babies here, which are neutral, should be the one thing that everybody's fighting over. They cannot be bounty hunted or sabotaged off the board. Neither can this capital ship. So they're always going to be there. Get yourself a capital ship, because a capital ship will go into your discard pile, but when it comes back into your hand and you have the ability to play it, you're going to play it down and it's going to go next to your base and it's going to stay there from turn to turn until it is destroyed. This big number here in the purple is the damage it can take before it is then removed from in front of you, protecting your base, and goes back into your discard pile. It is not destroyed, it's not exiled, it's simply knocked out and you're going to get it back. Capital ships not only soak up any damage before your base does, unless there's some special card effect, your opponent always has to take out your capital ship before your base. And any resources that the capital ship produces, it produces every turn because that card is in play. So this one would give you a resource and 1 attack power every single turn that it is there. So it would behoove your opponent to take them out quickly. But again, if they're taking this out, then they're not focusing on cards in the Galaxy row and they can't get to your base. So just a little tip. The one rule that I wasn't quite clear on regarding capital ships was the fact that when you put it in play, does it continue producing resources every turn, or does it simply just give you a meat shield to soak up damage? And it does. It does produce its resources because it's in play. It stays in play, and any cards in play, you can use it to commit to an attack, or it produces resources. So that wasn't quite clear. When I went back and read the rulebook for the second time through, I kind of picked up on it after I had reviewed the forums on BGG, but I'm making it clear for you now. So, back to bases. When a base accumulates the amount of damage equal to its health, again here the purple number at the bottom, it is destroyed. It goes away, and no base is revealed until your next turn. So, assuming that you didn't attack your own base, I don't think that's possible. Assuming your opponent takes out your base, they cannot then just start doing additional damage onto the next base that same turn. They can only take out 1 base a turn, because at the start of your next turn, if you have no base, you get to take all of your bases that you set aside. And again, in the tutorial game or whatever you want to call it, they recommend these 5, but you should have access to 10. And this truly is where the game shines for 2 reasons. One is that each of these has a different unique ability and action that's like a on reveal action. When I play this and make this my new base, I gain this action, and that's the only time it happens. Actually, no, that's not true. Some of these like this one here, Planetary Shield. While Hoth is your base, prevent the first 2 damage dealt to Hoth each turn. So that's not a one-time effect. That's a continuous passive effect. So, correction. But each one of these does a different thing, and there's 10 of them. So there's an incredible variety in what you want to choose. For example, a major player here is Moncala, and the Empire has the exact same card. It is, I believe, is it Coruscant or Corellia? It is Corellia. So these essentially are the same card. 10 strength. They have different names and different titles, but their effects are exactly the same. This is going to let you gain a card for free from the Galaxy Row. So say your Luke Skywalker is out here and you are not even close to purchasing it, but your opponent takes out your Dantooine base super fast. Well, maybe you play Moncala, pick up Luke Skywalker, and now with a small deck, you are that much kind of ahead of your opponent because you've got an amazing, one of the best cards in the game that you're going to be able to start playing out quickly a lot of times. Or maybe you want to slow them down. Again, the variety in these bases, I think, is where this game really shines. And it's a catch-up mechanic. So if I am the player whose base is damaged first, yes, technically my opponent is in the lead at that point. They're the first one to take out a base. They have 1, I have 0. But the fact that all my other bases give me some kind of advantage, whether it be Hoth, going to take longer to defeat, or whether it's Moncala, who's going to give me a free card, or whether it's Yavin 4, that if they discard cards, I get to damage their base directly. Whatever it is, this is going to help me catch back up. And before you know it, I will have taken out your base, and now we're tied. So, there you go. That is the how the bases work. And again, at the beginning of the game, you're going to determine between you and your opponent how many bases are we going to play to. 3, 4, or 5 is kind of the recommended numbers for a short, medium, or long game. But again, there's nothing stopping you from playing to 10 games. You'd probably run through every card in the deck at that point, but maybe that's what you want to do. Your game, go have fun. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. Again, there are some keywords on some of these big, more powerful cards here, but none of them, especially if you are familiar with deck builders or really just board games in general, they're all going to make sense to you. And so let me see if I can find one here that's got all the... So here, for example, Luke Skywalker gives you 6 attack, but he also gives you 2 force. That just means you drag the little force meter towards you. If it's already at your end, you don't gain any benefit. There's obviously keywords here, like Luke Skywalker is a Jedi, this is a fighter, this is a capital ship, there's another fighter, transport, officer. So those keywords sometimes are referred to by other cards. For example, one of the Empire's bases, if it's a trooper or a vehicle, which would be like the snowspeeder here, but not the TIE fighter, which is a fighter, that base gives them an additional +1 attack every turn. Stuff like that. But that's it. You simply just keep going back and forth, taking your turns. When damage is placed on a base, it just stays there. Same with a capital ship. If a capital ship is protecting it and you aren't able to completely destroy it, any damage you place on it stays there. But if you're bounty hunting or sabotaging, you have to take that card out completely in one fell swoop. I cannot say ping this TIE bomber for 1 damage and then the next turn come back to it. I better have 2 damage right off the bat, or else I'm wasting my time. I honestly think that's it. Like I said, this is not an overly complicated game. This is a pretty straightforward deck builder with a great theme, some really nice mechanics that I think will set it apart from other deck builders. The whole my cards, your cards in the Galaxy Row thing, the bases and their variety. There are some downsides to the game. I think there can be huge momentum shifts if you can somehow get capital ships before your opponent does, because these just continue to kind of give you a protective shield over your base and continuous resources. This board here, not the mechanic of it, but just purely the board, it's basically a double wide card that folds in the middle. I feel like Fantasy Flight could do better with their component there. And the sleeves, while amazing artwork, and I'm perfectly fine with the feel of them, come on guys, most of the cards are going to be vertical like this, but you have them, the artwork is horizontal. And I don't know about you, but I place most cards, when I place them into a sleeve that are horizontal, I'm going to place them in where I am pushing them from right to left. And maybe this is just me, but this is how I prefer my cards, where the opening on a horizontal card is on the right side. Well, if I flip this over directly that way, this picture is upside down. So if this is in a pile and I want to play it, I gotta play it like that. But most of the time I would flip it like that. Now it's upside down. Minor gripes. I just feel like that was kind of a big swing and a miss on their part. But there you go. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know in the comment section below. And again, if you are interested in a solo variant for this game, keep an eye out on the channel, subscribe to the channel, watch the channel, follow the channel, whatever it may be. My hope is to very soon, as soon as possible, have a legitimate solo variant that I'll be premiering on the channel for you guys for this game, because I think it can be done. I think I can make it happen. So keep an eye out for that. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching.